Hey everyone, welcome to Watch It Painter. In this video I would like to show you how to rebase your miniatures with clear acrylic bases if that is what you're interested in. Now these are some Zombicide miniatures I painted about 3 years ago, and these are ones I've just done with contrast paint on the channel. If you'd like to see how to paint Zombicide, check out that video on the channel. This video is going to be about how I rebase these, and let's just have a look at the difference. So the main reason for using acrylic bases is actually, well, there's probably 3 reasons. One, it means I don't have to paint the base, and this is not a difficult process. This is nice and quick and easy. Now I don't have to paint the base. 2, you can see through, so that miniature becomes fully encapsulated. It's like you can see the environment. It's 100% matching the environment he's in. The game becomes a little bit more immersive, and again, I've not had to paint that environment to match it. And then the third one, and this won't account for every game, but Zombicide, there's tons and tons. It's a horde-based game. There's 35 of these miniatures. I downsized the base while I was rebasing. These all fit on 20mm acrylic bases, and they come on 25mm bases as standard. So it's just cleaned up a huge footprint of these miniatures on the board game, and when there's a big horde together, they just take up so much less space. What is it, 20% less space or something, which works great when you've got 35 of these to move around, and they don't topple over. That the walkers fit perfectly, so that's another great reason to do so. Now guys, honestly, this is a really straightforward and really easy, and I actually, like, I could change it. Sometimes I paint the bases now, but for Zombicide, there's so many of them. This is just the quickest way of doing it. I'm going to show you a couple of ways that I go about doing this. First thing to mention is you're going to need some acrylic bases. They normally come with sort of protective coating on either side, so you can peel them off and then you get the clear acrylic base. These are 20mm, as I mentioned. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can pick up some if you would like. And then you need some cutting devices. I'm going to show you 2 methods, as I mentioned. I'll use one just with a pair of nippers. That's probably the easiest and most straightforward for most of you to do. But then I have another method which uses a crafts knife and this Swan Morton blade. You can pick up these chisel blades, and I effectively just pin these down and chisel them off, and it's just one quick motion, and it's very, very straightforward if you can get that setup going, especially if you're doing a whole bunch of them. I did all 35 of mine in one go, and this was the faster technique for that. But I'll look at both because, you know, pick whichever you want. They're both straightforward. One thing I didn't mention before I started this was that varnish your miniatures on this base before you apply them to the plastic one. It just means you're not having to risk making them look a bit weird with some varnish on. So all of these are varnished before. So I would recommend you start with a miniature, if for your first time, that's easier. Something that's a bit more spread out. 2 spread out legs is going to be a bit easier than this clump of legs here. And probably pick one of the miniatures you care least about, just in case anything goes wrong. But it probably won't. It's pretty straightforward. So it's as simple as I'm just going to be nipping away the plastic base from around his foot, and we'll tidy it up and get closer and closer as I do so. But let's just cut some workable space around him. So I'm butting right up to his foot and just doing a nip, and then let's cut that bit off so we've got some space to work, like so. And then we can get this angle here for this foot, and that big chunk's away now. Problem solved. Really want to get this piece here, but let's come this way first. That bit's sorted. And then along here, just really working it. And what you find is he's going to be sticking out. He's going to have a little lump under him by the time we're done. Then we've just got to work some of these little pieces off. Don't be afraid to cut at an angle, because we are going to take off the whole bottom bit as well eventually. I took out most of it just then. So let's do that now. So I'm going to try and get as flat up to the painted bottom of the foot as I can, and just snip away this bottom piece, giving a nice flat foot there. So we've got some space, some flat surface to glue him back together on the new base, and the same here. Now this is the bit to be the most careful on. You want it nice and straight, nice and flat, so it's easy to glue him back in, like so. And you can see, cut perfectly flat. He stands up. He stood up. Look at him. Look at him go. You might just need to do a little bit of tidying up, and I might just need to bring it a bit closer to my face without the camera in the way. But yeah, there's possibly a bit there, but I don't want to nip without getting it nice and close. And you might just want to do a touch up with paint, and you might want to paint the underside if you would like, but it might affect it sticking. I often would now just sand this, but that's what I'm going to go and do. You guys can do as you please. You can see that I just leave them clear underneath with a little bit of sanding. It helps them stick, and you don't really see underneath. Have I got any? This one was painted underneath, and it's obviously stuck, but I would say it's a little bit harder. For the second technique that I use, I've now switched out the chisel blade for my scalpel, and I'll just show this nice and close on camera so you can understand exactly what I'm doing. But I'm going to go away and clamp all of this down to make sure this is nice and safe and my fingers can be well clear, safety goggles can be on, etc, etc. So the chisel blade is on, and you can see this is the flat side. I'm now going to place that flat side flat with the base, so it's got no way of digging into the base or coming out of the base. Nice and flat, that's where I'm going to be placing it. I'm going to find a nice bit of the miniature to get it under. His toes are raised, so this slots in and fits very, very snugly in here. I don't recommend proving it too much in case you slip and stick it in your finger. As I mentioned, I'm going to use a clamp in a minute. I'm then simply just going to tap the end of this scalpel, and it's just going to push through and snip his foot off very, very quickly and very, very cleanly. I'll just demonstrate with a little tap. It's going to go whoosh, and his foot's going to be freed. I'm going to do the same one on this foot as well. But as I mentioned, if you're using this technique, it is quick and it is simple, but you do want to be nice and safe. Have safety goggles on. Make sure my hands and body are nowhere near this blade. I don't want it sticking in my hand or leg. And that's it, guys. That's both the ways I relieve my miniatures from their bases. And they're both got good points and bad points, and there's a time and a place, I think, to use it either. If I'm doing 35 miniatures back to back, quite like the chiseling them off technique. It's quite quick. It normally takes one tap each, and it's just a process of putting them in a vise to hold them. Obviously, that's got a lot of setup. It depends on your setup at home. I have to set it up outside and get out all my stuff, and the overhead on setting that up is a lot longer. The cutters, if I'm just doing one or two, very clean, very quick, but it's not as quick as just tapping them off, and you need a good pair of clippers as well. So either way, you're going to get your miniatures off, and you can see they've cut nice and flat. They're both stood up on their own. On to the next step, which is just taking the clear bases, one for each, and then we need to peel off that plastic backing. This is tricky, especially if you bite your nails like myself. Don't bite your nails, guys, but one off like so, and they're normally, well, I think they'll all be double-sided. They don't peel these for you because this takes ages. There we go, nice and clear, all see-through as expected, no damage. And then it's as simple as grabbing some super glue. I'm going to use Army Painter's super glue here, and then we're going to take the miniature we want to base and very, very carefully try and get on a tiny dab of on each foot. You want to be careful how much you put on here because it will likely splurt out when you attach it to the base, but at least it's clear, so it doesn't matter too much. And then I'm roughly just going to try and line this up with about where the middle of the base is, somewhere here. And then it's as simple as I'm just going to hold this in position for a small amount of time just to let that glue start drying. And once I think it's started to take hold, I'll pop it down to dry the rest for a good hour or so, like so. It didn't take too long at all. And there we go, we'll leave him to dry and I'll do the others. And in the time it just took me to go and make myself a nice cup of coffee, check out that mug, guys. You can pick up these mugs if you would like, and you can support the channel at the same time, and you get a cool mug. But anyway, in the time it took to make a cup of coffee and grab a zombie sideboard, these will have all dried nicely, and I just thought I'd show the board. I'm sure you guys can imagine what it is now capable of, but look, everything looks like it's in the game. If you need a cobble street below your miniature, oh, you've got one. You want some random tat on the floor, oh, you've got it through. If you want to jump on a double bed, there we go, bouncy bouncy on the bed. You know, that's the point of the clear miniatures. You get instant perfect matching bases, guys. That is it. It was super easy. Hopefully you guys can follow along if you would like to do that, and it's fairly straightforward. Pick either method and you'll be happy with the results. Thank you all ever so much for watching. I'll see you again next week. guys, check the mug, support the channel. If you like the mug, pick up the mug and it supports the channel.